Our speaker is Bob Giacin, a longtime member of Hollywood Historical Society and a great friend. He and I originally met in the early 60s. He was a CPA and I was working for a law firm in the old Hollywood Federal Building on 19th and Tyler. And he came in on a lot of cases that we had, and we've remained friends ever since. He's been a great advocate for our parks in Broward County, having worked on them on TY Park as well as C.B. Smith Park. Now, I don't know if you know how much is at C.B. Smith Park. We have two posters back there that I did showing you some of what it originally looked like, and all the amenities are there. Next month, on September 10th, our City Commissioner, Aldama Quintana, is going to be my speaker, and she's going to talk about exploring the history of Hispanics in Florida. And now, Bob.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Historical number 8 of 12, 2023 lecture series. Before I proceed, we need to recognize the efforts of the Hollywood Historical Society and its guiding members for the lecture series it continues to produce. The history, heritage, and legacy the Society perpetuates is commendable and is appreciated. Can the members of the Society stand up for a moment that are here? Karen? All right, thank you for showing up and doing your thing. And especially to Dr. Michelson. Her mother, or grandmother was my kindergarten teacher. Lamora, was it? Yeah. That was on about the 2200 block of Polk Street. And I remember then that, as short as I was, when I had to go to the bathroom, I had to run home. I don't think there was a bathroom at the kindergarten school back then. So, we also have in our audience a contractor who helped build C.B. Smith Park and most of the other parks in Broward County, including this public library. Harry Padula with his wife Grace. And Grace has her mother that flew in from Taiwan, especially for this program. Welcome to America. We also have joining us the longest administrator for the Park District that we've ever had. We're very proud that Pete Masseri was able to show up with his wife Patty and his son Vernon, his wife Joanne, and Vernon and his wife Patty. So Pete Masseri, please stand. This man engineered a lot of the work that you will see on the screen at TY Park. Thank you, Pete, for the many years of service. I also had a friend that was supposed to show up, he promised me. 75 years together, Henry Longo. Unfortunately, he had a stroke a few months ago and is not up to coming out today. And last and not least is why I'm here. My wife of 62 years, Kay Giacin. Every time we go out, we have to have an argument to get ready. You know, she always waits till the last minute to get her medicines, to get her purse, to button up, all right? And now what we are here for today, the birth of C.B. Smith Park. This afternoon sort of reminds me of my wedding night. Yep. I know what I'm here for. Now will I be able to produce? Okay. I know I bragged a lot back then. Did I produce then? No. And she says I still don't produce. Trust me. On the screen is the day we dedicated C.B. Smith Park. Sadly, I believe only 2 shown on the screen are still around. One of which is standing behind Dave Keating in the bottom left. His name was Judge Larry Myers. He was one of the very first park chairmen. And actually the guy with the long sideburns, you can guess who that is, okay? Everybody else is gone. The lady that's there is the daughter of C.B. Smith. We were able to find her. She's one of the two, and got her to attend the dedication. For background purposes, the South Broward Park District, who created the three major parks in South Broward, encompassed the area between the Dade County line on the south, north to the State Road 84 canal, and from the Atlantic Ocean west to US 27. The district was composed of appointments from the 7 municipalities that were in the area. I represented the city of Hollywood for approximately 7 years. The district founded and operated T.Y. Park and C.B. Smith Park and the 56-acre North Beach Park, which really was started by the Hollywood J.C.'s on 5 acres of the land located at the base of Sheridan and A1A. The J.C.'s had negotiated a short-term, undeterminable period of time lease with Hollywood Inc., Bill Horowitz, and he gave the land for free and paid, it was back then, $40,000 a year in real estate taxes, not asking for any kind of rebates. Unfortunately, the city ran into a problem with Bill over some water wells they wanted to put on his property. We got into an argument, or he got into the argument, and then he called me up and says, "Bob, you got to take all the picnic benches and the barbecue off. We're taking it out of circulation." And he ended up putting a fence around the property to stop unlawful use. The 5 acres grew into 56 acres as the county condemned the property on the beach from Sheridan Street north, including the house that was owned by June Carpenter, which is part of the North Beach Park area. Now let's dive into the reason why we have a pregnancy, the reason for the birth of T.Y. Park, of C.B. Smith Park. The seed for the park was planted back in the late 1940s when a 600-acre site was no longer used by the government for an Army Air Force bombing range. The war was over, and the U.S. government land was declared surplus. One of the county commissioners, who had good foresight and wanted the land for the county, was Charles Barney Smith, a former Hollywood City Commissioner. Charles Barney Smith, or we used to call him just CB, was a popular public figure in Broward County, born in Valdosta, Georgia in 1910. He served for 18 years in public service, the first 9 as a Hollywood City Commissioner, the last 9 as a Broward County Commissioner. CB was in the house and building moving business in Hollywood. Charlie lived in a Coral Rock home on the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and 24th Avenue. Right now it's occupied by a French pastry. We used to live a half a block to the east, and I used to love to run down to his house and play in his cellar. Believe it or not, Hollywood had a few houses with cellars. And I recall one day when I came there, I was grabbing the doors to open them up when Mr. Smith says, "Bobby," he says, "don't go in there, don't go in." I said, "Oh, no, I'm all right. No, don't go in there." In the meantime, I had already opened the doors. I started to go down the steps, and I looked ahead, and there was 2 rattlesnakes with rats in their mouth. That was CB's way of having population control at no cost. Anyways, the 600 acres sat as a fallow piece of land at the northwest corner of Hollywood Boulevard, which is an east-west road, now called Pines Boulevard, and going north-south was Snake Creek Road, now called Flamingo Road. Let's see if I can get something going here. I should have started. Okay. Is it moving?
No, here.
Oh, no, not move too fast. Up, too fast. Sorry about that. Why isn't it? elevating.
The next one. It's about 11 seconds. So we'll go here.
Okay.
That's where you want to.
See here is the original 600 acres of C.B. Smith Park. Full of vegetation, right? Sawgrass. See these little holes in the property? Those are the bombing craters that were created from the dumb bombs and some real live bombs. They turned up to be a problem later on, which we'll start seeing in a moment. Well, that's better for you, but not for me. Uh-oh. Got a little one for me? Good, good. Okay. At CB's insistence, the county purchased the land for $15 an acre, a total of $9,000 for 600 acres. Don't you wish we could do that today? And they named it Snake Creek Park. That's the true name of the place, not CB. And it was appropriate for the amount of snakes that it contained. I remember many days on weekends, my father used to go down to the Snake Creek Road, and he would let me sit on the Snake Creek Rock Road with my cane pole and fish. And as I'm sitting there, going back and forth like traffic, were the snakes. Rattlesnakes, cottonmouth, copperheads, garden snakes. Never bothered me, I never bothered them. At the end of the day, my dad came over to me, he says, "Okay, Robert, let's go, pull up your fish." I grabbed my stringer, pulled it up, and on the stringer was a beautiful moccasin, hooked right in there. I said, "Okay, Daddy, wait, let me take the fish off." And he said, "No, no, no." He says, "You got to throw them all in." I says, "Why?" He says, "Because you don't know how many other fish he's already bitten into." I said, "Oh gosh, I'm going to lose my stringer." In any case, the 600 acres remained unimproved for many years. Then in the 1970s, the county honored CB by changing the name from Snake Creek Park to C.B. Smith Park. They made very minor improvements, consisting of 2 benches, no drinking water, no restroom facilities. It remained that way until it got developed in the late 70s. During the 50s to the 70s, South Broward had always been shortchanged by the county for public parks. Due to this condition, the 7-member state delegation got an earful from their constituents about a lack of parks. So in the late 60s, they decided to form what is now known, back then, as the South Broward Park District. It was charged with the responsibility to build parks in their area of representation, South Broward. The Park District was granted taxing authority and condemnation rights, their tools to begin the quest for developing further park sites. At the same time that that was being developed, Hollywood City Commissioner B.L. David had made overtures to his friend Ben Butler to let his Butler Dairy become a park. Mr. Butler wanted $200,000 for his 80 to 100 acres. BL got the city of Hollywood to loan $50,000 to the Park District, while the Park District proceeded to get federal funds and state funds to acquire the rest of the park, the rest of his land. After T.Y. Park was developed and made operational on December 9th, 1971, a public contest was done to name the new park. The name selected was Topa Kiji Ugni or Yugni. We don't know at this point. Pete, do you remember, was it Yugni or Ugni? But it was a Ugni. Okay, we'll go with
Meeting place. It means a meeting place.
meeting place, the gathering place. And it was offered by one of the Seminole tribe members, and as I say, we honored the Seminole that day. At the time the park was developed, it was developed with a design occupancy of 8,000 users per weekend. It was a huge success. I don't know how many of you were around back then, but the traffic went from the entrance south to Sheridan Street, east to 95, west to 46th Avenue, and everybody honking the horns to get in. As chairman, I determined that we needed to expand the facilities at that location and add more parks out west. I proceeded to negotiate with the property owners that were on the east side of TY Park, Wakeland Millworks and the Everglades Paper Company. There was about maybe 5 acres or so, 10 acres, whatever. And through negotiations and threat of condemnation so they could get favorable tax benefits, we acquired the property. It enabled us to go from an 8,000 occupancy to 12,000. That still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because the people out west had to travel too far to get to a place that was already occupied. So they wanted stuff out west, and that's what we proceeded to do. I started searching for property suitable for parkland, which means at least 100 acres or more, and naturally with vegetation and growth and trees that were suitable for park use. One of the sites that I came up with was gorgeous, perfect. It was known as now the Rolling Hills Country Club. Rolling Hills Country Club was owned by Chuck Sirianni Estate. He wanted, or they wanted, $1 million. All right? I came to my park board and I said, gentlemen, and I don't think we had a lady back then, did we? Gentlemen, $1 million to do that would take a 25-cent tax per $1,000 evaluation for 5 years, and we would own the park. The board said, no, we don't want to be looked at as being a taxing authority. We don't want to spend $1 million, so we passed on it. And as a side note, that property within 7 years, I think it was, ended up being sold back and forth to an Asian group for $17 million. Okay? When I left that site, I moved over to the Wiley Waldrop Dairy site. Does anybody in here know or knew Wiley? No. Wiley Waldrop? Okay, well, Wiley was a good old man, real southerner. He loved his property, he loved his cows, and he said, I'm not interested in selling to you. I said, well, Wiley, I said, we could do it favorably for you so you would have no income tax on the sale. We can do a 1031, condemnation. He said, I'm not interested, so leave me alone. Well, I'm a little bit stubborn. So I said, well, we'll see. Well, it didn't take long for me to find out that man had power. A few days after my last meeting with him, I get a phone call. I said, hello, and he says, sir, are you Bob Guy? I said, yes, sir. I said, this is Congressman Attorney Paul Rogers. I'm calling to represent my client, Wiley Waldrop, and to let you know, back off. He's not interested in selling, and we're not interested in negotiating. I said, okay, that was enough for me. At that moment, somebody had brought to my attention that this county had 600 acres way out west that we could get for free if we just went and asked. I said, okay. So I started the quest for negotiating to get the use of the 600 acres out west by meeting with Bob Barkaloo, who was the county commissioner for the Miramar area. I met with Ann Kolb, who was the county commissioner at large, the chair lady. And there was another commissioner, which I can't remember, Jack someone. In any case, all three of them politely, individually said, no, get the property. You're not going to get the property, just back off. I said, well, it's sitting out there, it's fallow land, we could do something with it. We've got experience with the South Broward Park District. We have the ability to raise funds through the state and federal government. And they said, no way, back off. Well, I didn't think that was appropriate. And again, being stubborn sometimes, I approached the state legislature. Several of them were very good personal friends. A few of them were clients. And I said, look, guys, here's a piece of land for free. We have the ability to do what you've seen done at TY Park, at North Beach Park, and we would like to pursue acquisition of that site to do the same thing. There's 600 acres out there going to waste. So one of the commissioners, or one of the legislators, called me up one day and he says, Bob, he says, make an appointment to appear before the county commission to acquire the land. I said, they're not going to do it. He says, do it. So I did it. 2 weeks later, I had the meeting. I walked into the county commission room. No sooner sat down as Commissioner Cole and said, Mr. Giacin, come up to the podium. I said, yes, ma'am. And before I could say one word about what I wanted, she says, is there a motion? And Jack Moss, I think it was, Jack Moss, the county commissioner, made the motion, and Bob Barkaloo approved, seconded, and we got the property of 600 acres for, actually it was 299 acres left, for a 30-year period to develop it. I thanked him, turned around, walked out. The commission, the state legislative delegation walked out, and I said, Harold and Dave and somebody else, I said, what happened? He says, it's very simple, Bob. He says, the county commission wanted a $200,000 grant from us, and we told them, either you give the land to the park district or you don't get the $200,000. So we did some horse trading and ended up with the property that way. Okay? Let's see where I'm going to put. Okay, let's just pass on here, if I can. Let's start this thing moving. Okay. Now we're about to go into the development of that vacant land. To develop that land, every tree, every shrub, every flower, every patch of grass had to be brought in. Nothing was there like the 100-year-old trees that we had at T.Y. Park. We had quite a task on our hands to take raw land, nude of all vegetation, and turn it into a park with the customary amenities, trees and foliage so necessary to become a functioning public park. We all know the importance of parks. They are the lungs of our communities, and in the case of Florida, the gills. They help us stay happy and fit. They are where we do our jogging, our fitness walks, play tennis, basketball, picnic, develop family and friendships and relationships, celebrate special occasions, make marriage proposals, and probably have a few divorces asked for. And occasionally, we are chased by the over-friendly squirrels, or lately the slithering, iguanas. Now you see what the park has created. Imagine, if you will, that in the late 70s, the Rubik Cube had just hit the stores, and the sound of ABBA was in the air. Picture a piece of land now reduced from 600 to 299 acres, not filled with dancing queens, but soon to become Broward County's most used park and in a prime location. Through our grant coordinator, Maurice Connell, we secured the largest state grant ever given because of the need to get a park established. We immediately started off developing the park with excavating the many feet of muck and creation of lake sites which would hold the rainwater. In the process of the big earth movies scooping out the mud, they were bringing up what, Harry? Bombs. They were bringing up bombs, and every time a bomb was brought up, work had to stop because we didn't know if it was going to be live or a dummy. The naval ordnance would come in from the Fort Lauderdale airport, where they had their location, and approve the continuation of the work. The park was developed over about a year-and-a-half period, Pete?
About 3 years.
3 years, okay. Well, with what you see on the screen right now, you can understand why it took so much time. They did a great job with all of the Paradise Cove facilities that you see. In spite of my not being involved through the last half of the development, I was asked to participate in the March 13th, 82 dedication. When my time came up for renewal as a city appointee, I was passed over by one or two of the commissioners in the city for a new commissioner's campaign manager who wanted to take over my position, which gracefully gave her. How does C.B. Smith Park compare to other known facilities as a comparison for size? Emerald Hills, Section 1, right across the street, is basically 900 acres. CB was 299. TY ended up being about 196 acres from the original 135. Disneyland in California, would you believe was only 160 acres? Would you believe that? Disney World is several thousand acres, okay? Attendance at the park in 2021 was 300,000 people, and for 2023 it is projected to be 475,000 people. It has a budget of $3.67 million, which is double the next closest park, which is TY Park. It is supported with user fees of 38% of the 38% of the budget, and it costs an average of $400 per acre to maintain it. The park has roughly 100 employees. In 1988, the new state delegation was approached by the county commission to dissolve the South Broward Park District. They felt since it had accomplished its park developments, it was no longer needed. Yes, C.B. Smith Park design has brought public parks a long way. It has facilities that are unbelievable. It's almost like a typical park went from being a cassette tape player to a Spotify playlist, jam-packed with hits and facilities for every age. The handout that you have shows all of the features the park has to offer. More than the park's features is the sense of our community life that truly makes C.B. Smith Park the special location where loved ones love to spend their time together, enjoy a concert, a chili cookout contest, absorb all of that Paradise Cove has to offer, or simply appreciate the natural beauty that surrounds you. This park's role, all parks' role in our community, extends beyond just being a place for recreation. It's a cornerstone of our culture and unity, and a sanctuary to quietly thank God for one's blessings. So now, it finally comes time to say, like Paul Harvey did, now you know the rest of the story, why and how the birth of C.B. Smith Park came to be. The last time I did a presentation for the Society, about 5 years ago, it was supposed to be 30 minutes. It ended up being an hour and 20 minutes. I promised I wouldn't do that this time. So I have brought it down to a conclusion here of no more than a half hour. All right, almost 2 o'clock. I'm ready to have any questions and answers done in the back.
You had mentioned that there were 600 acres, but the park is only 300 acres. What happened to the other 300
The
acres?
county sold off 300 acres to private enterprise for home development.
Okay.
Okay?
If in the 1950s it was $15 or $14 per acre, do you have any idea what it would be now?
1.5 million.
Yeah.
Per acre?
Right.
Yeah,
Per acre?
per acre, undeveloped in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what's costing.
last I checked, yeah.
Why?
Yes, John?
The water source. Snake River.
The water source is the groundwater coming up, right, Pete? Wells. It's all fresh water out there, way out there. Brackish water, really.
We
Pete,
don't
how many
have
wells did you have to do?
injection.
Or Harry, you remember? How many wells did you have to do for all that water?
No, it's been so long ago
Huh?
now.
Really?
No wells,
No, it's all city water?
all groundwater,
All groundwater?
all lake groundwater.
Well, that's the same thing, wells. Okay, question?
Yeah, when did the park get its name? C.B. Smith Park.
C.B. Smith Park came about in honor of the gentleman who had the foresight to get the land from the federal government, Charles Barney Smith. Charles Barney Smith was a county commissioner at the time that he put his eyes on the property out there, and he was the one that was successful for getting that site.
After all the rejections.
Yeah, well, yeah. When you say who was responsible for getting the site, are you asking how did the South Broward Park District get the site? Or why was it named C.B. Smith?
Why was it named?
Yeah, C.B. Smith's name came about because he was the one that had the foresight to get the land from the government, federal government.
They had a lot of rejections. There was a lot of rejections.
Well, there was a lot of, everybody likes to jockey for position to have something named after themselves, but he was prevailing and he was successful and he deserved it. Question?
During the COVID crisis that we had, how long did the park serve that purpose, and how many people do you think were helped in during COVID for exactly that reason?
Well, Pete, were the parks ever closed during a COVID situation? No, they were always open. You just took care. They was always open and used.
They didn't let us into C.B. Smith Park during COVID.
And they did vaccinations.
Well, it might have been a period of time when they were getting their feet on the ground what to do, but go ahead.
T.Y. Park was closed for a long time. I don't know about C.B. Smith, but I know T.Y. Park was closed for a long time.
They didn't let you get further than the entrance if you were.
Okay, well, I draw a blank on whether or not I was right or wrong on that, but it was my understanding that it was only for a short time, not a long time, that the park was held back. That's a peacock you see over on the right-hand side. Questions? Back there. Up here. Pete.
I moved to Hollywood in 1954, and I met Bob then. He was a very active person in the community. President of JC Hollywood, I was president of JC Hollywood, Kiwanis Club. We all were friends throughout the many years. His dedication in building C.B. Smith Park, T.Y. Park, and Northview Park goes beyond a normal person.
Thank you,
He
Pete.
did a lot of work in pushing for Northview Park, C.B. Smith Park, and Northview Park.
Thank you.
Contract, Harrisburg, all over here, and built TY, CB, and Northview Park, all three phases of it, he was involved with it.
Yeah.
And I was the manager of TY Park, CB Smith Park, and Northview Park for almost 10 years. I moved to Hollywood in 1954 and was very active in the city of Hollywood and Miramar. So,
Yep. Now we have in the audience, I didn't recognize, it's former Commissioner. Go ahead. Come on. Dick Blattner, of course, and his wife. And I noticed some of my friends from the clubs, Tim McVeigh and Rick. All right, who else is here from the clubs? Somebody else was here to come out and support the speaker. So, other questions? Question?
Not about C.B. Smith Park, but the city of Hollywood recently acquired the property at Sunset Golf Course, and they promised to keep that a green space. Do you have any idea what's going on with the park development there?
I would defer that question to Mr. Commissioner Blattner.
Where Sunset Golf Course is on Johnson Street, they're supposed to keep that green. The city of Hollywood bought the property and we're going to make a park out of that, but I don't know what's happening.
Well, the city paid $12 million for the park, and those of you who know that site on Sunset, it's a really sensitive piece of property for drainage and retention. So regardless of what the city wanted to do, it really is prohibited from doing because of the requirements for drainage and retention. So the space that's gonna be available for recreation is limited, but it's not a suitable site for the golf.
Beck?
Sir, I've known you for a long time, since I was a little kid. My parents would used to go to your accountant.
Yeah.
Mark Ross. I've been working with these people at this community center, talking about parks. We're still trying to save this little park, the last park we have on the beach. And the city wants to give it away to a related group,
1301.
1301.
Thank you.
We've been fighting that, and it seems like I just, the feeling I have is that's the last place we have on the
Yeah.
beach, but people can go to. Every day, when I go there, people have meetings, everybody uses that park, and they say it's run down and this and that. It's all tilt wall, solid concrete building, it can't go anywhere. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with the place, and they're trying to beat it down like it's something terrible.
Yeah.
And we need to keep that place. That's the only little place that people can go with
Yeah.
their family and their kids anymore. It's like,
Let me share some
Please.
light on that. Steve and I and a couple of others did a video on the reason why it should stay as it is. 1301 property, I was on the original
yes,
committee that the city had appointed 5 of us to go and look at the property that was being offered by the Mailman Foundation,
yes,
our Mailman Construction Company. Frank Steffens was the point person on that. And the Mailman people wanted to give the property to the city so long as it would be retained as a public park facility.
Yes.
Okay? The city finally agreed to it, and the deed was drawn. It was put into the deed to be retained as a public park facility. Along comes the legislature, the federal government actually, many years ago, decided to use a thing called the PPP or PTP, Public Partnership. Okay? And the reason for that was that they wanted to be able to have private enterprise come into blighted areas, and improve the blighted areas by having private money come in and get tax incentives to do an improvement. It was never intended to be used for the type of 1301 land that we have. Many of us in the room here, Rick and Tim and myself and whoever else, we fought through our committee of 100 to oppose it. We hired 2 attorneys. We opposed it. We had several of our members speak at the hearings and oppose it. And so far, we understand it's been taken off the table. And we don't know if it's going to come back or not, but Dick, can you shed light?
Yes. I serve on the city's planning and development board. We turned it down.
yes.
The application for the project had a drop dead date of July 3rd. If it didn't go forward by July 3rd, it was dead. It's dead. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that someone else can't come back with another project, but that particular project is dead.
So,
The real way to stop it would be to have a referendum, Dick.
The related group is out of it.
The real way to stop it, as we understand, is to have a referendum so that we get the vote of the people, who is supposed to be the people that these city commissioners represent. And at this point, if it comes back up to be on the agenda, I assure you, there's going to be an attempt to do a citywide referendum to oppose the turning loose of that property.
We need a referendum.
Okay?
They also want the Hollywood Beach Hotel.
Yes.
The
Well,
same group.
The
same
Hollywood
group.
Beach Hotel is under personal ownership
I know.
now, private ownership.
They
They
can do what they
don't
want.
have any control over that.
That's what they're looking at.
The problem with the Hollywood Beach Hotel is that it's a condominiumized facility with, I don't know, 200-300 rentals in there that have been sold off. And the guy that has been buying up has a majority of the ownership, but he's been stopped for some reason that he can't move ahead for some kind of litigation that's being pursued, okay? That property is going to have a hard time being developed because the circulation of the highway, Hollywood Boulevard coming off the bridge there and all that circulation, that has to be redone. And in order for that to be redone, the city's got to get involved. They're talking about putting a tunnel rather than a bridge. And that's big time, okay? I don't see that happening. Speaking of the Hollywood Beach Hotel, in 1947, when we had 2 hurricanes back to back in October, the first hurricane sat off the coast of Hollywood and came down Hollywood Boulevard virtually. It brought the ocean and Intercoastal Canal all the way down to Young Circle.
Barges.
Young Circle to the Intercoastal was like 2 feet deep with intercoastal water and fish. All the fish you wanted were swimming up and down. And when the water receded, the fish were left behind, and the city had to come along with buckets and buckets and take out all these fish that were dying all over the place. I was about 8 years old, and my father and I went down to the beach, and where the Hollywood Beach Hotel is, underneath of it was totally washed out. All the sand was gone from the wave action. The sand was filled on the first floor. The second floor had 3/4 of it filled, and the third floor had water. All right, that's 40 feet, 30, 40 feet. In any case, my father says to me, "Here, Robert, take this." He called it back then a guinea sack. Now, that's a guinea word. It's a bad word for an Italian, but that's what he called it, a guinea sack, all right? A potato sack. And he says, "Go underneath there and get all the fish into the bag, but only the ones that are moving." Only the ones that are moving. And I did that, and we had fish for days and days. Question?
Bob, I should have made you sign an exclusivity clause because now you've told 2 of the stories that are in my movie. I don't feel like I'm not just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. So Hollywood from Young Circle to about 28th Avenue was the only dry point in 1947 hurricane. At 28th Avenue going west, it started with an inch of water and got deeper and deeper until you got out to 441, where you couldn't tell where the road was. You had to follow the telephone poles to know where the road was. My father had a 10-acre ranch out at 100th Avenue and Griffin Road back then. It's 10 acre. He had 10 cows on it. It was 3 days before we could get into a truck to go out that way that the water had receded enough to rescue the cows. By the time we got out to Griffin and 441, where you see the pumping station now, nothing but orange groves. There was no pumping station. There was no canal. In fact, all the canals that you see today were the outgrowth of the Central Southern Flood Control District being developed because of the hurricanes. Okay? In any case, we took Griffin Road out to the 100th Avenue, and there were the 10 cows upside down, floating in the water, and on top of their bellies, like a pound of linguinis, were the snakes. There was one cow that was still fluttering half alive. My father grabbed the ears of the cow and pulled it up onto the flatbed of the truck and looked at it for a moment and took out a hatchet and went whack, killed it. And he said, "I have to do that because he's already been bitten. You know, he's going to die, he's going to drown." Because I was crying, you kill a cow like that. He pulled the cow up on top and he slit open the belly and he took out the stomach. And he taped off the 2 ends of the stomach, and we put it on the back of the truck, threw the cow over, and went home. Well, Italians make a thing called tripe. Tripa they call it. And when we got home, my father gave me a pair of carpet scissors and said, "Take it apart, cut it into pieces, this pig, put it in your mother's Maytag washer and clean it all out." All right? And then when it's all lily white clean, he said, "You take and cut it into strips, a 1/2 inch wide, 2 inches long, and bring it upstairs, and we're going to have tripe tonight." Fresh tripe. True story. Okay.
From the washing machine.
Now, my father couldn't sell the property. He put it up for sale back then at $500 an acre. He couldn't sell it. All right?
Right.
This story that I'm telling was in the newspaper 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Would you believe I got a phone call from somebody saying, "Is the property still for sale?" Yeah. Is the property still for sale?
What is it now? What's there now?
I drove by there the other day to take a look at it, and it's a veterinarian, Camelot School or something like that. Any other questions? None? Thank you very much.